Welcome, David. Thank you very much for coming. The report was about the King of Spain visit, and he addressed the Royal Gallery yesterday in Parliament. Two large empires, Spain and Britain, were at war, and then together against Bonaparte. Will actually this visit help Britain out in the European Union negotiations as an ally of Spain?
I would doubt it, actually. I mean, for a start, the King of Spain has to be officially neutral. But
Yes.
we're already having hints that perhaps Gibraltar will become an issue, and the EU have made it an issue by putting it in their first proposal.
But you see, Spain have got similar situation with Morocco in Africa, so they probably will have to go easy on that one.
I would have thought so, and also the economy. I mean, the Gibraltar economy provides lots of jobs for Spanish people over the border, and Spain isn't in a brilliant economic situation either. So I would have thought there would have to be some sort of diplomacy over this. And I mean, basically, it's almost, if it is going to be an issue, it's almost deliberate troublemaking by the EU.
By the EU. But if you compare Hong Kong and China, for example, I mean, the Chinese didn't certainly mess with Hong Kong because it will be economical sort of punching themselves in the face.
Yes, and also actually the interesting thing about Hong Kong and China is that Chris Patten, we did have an orderly withdrawal, and we stuck to the letters of the law.
Chris Patten was actually a conservative politician. He's Lord Patten now, and he was the last governor. I was there actually to hand out
Really?
with Blair, yeah. And that's when actually Prince Charles was telling us about Tony Blair in the party. He said, "Oh, Blair, this chap." He almost giving you the impression he's listening to you.
Yes, Blair was very clever
at that one. But on the actual estate and visits and pomp and all of that, I mean, Britain is a good selling point.
Well, Britain does tradition brilliantly. I mean, even the scaled down reopening of Parliament still had, or without the royal coach, still actually it was a tremendous occasion. I often feel our country is really good at doing this, and there's really nothing wrong in keeping this tradition for major occasions.
Good for tourism. Speaking of tradition, here our colleague Quentin Letts is a good sketch writer. He writes about yesterday, the King of Spain addressing all the politicians, and he's having a go at the speaker, John Bercow.
Well, it's interesting because John Bercow is a great moderniser.
Right.
I mean, he is in fact got rid of quite a lot of the traditions, including started by just wearing a gown in the Commons. Rather
Yeah,
than
we discussed that last week. Actually, but isn't tradition actually a selling point? I mean,
I think tradition is a selling point for Britain, because as long as it doesn't get confused by the Americans that we're a terribly antiquated, old-fashioned country and we don't really know how to use the internet properly, things
well,
like that.
yeah, it's a problem for me how to use the internet.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in the press gallery. But actually, speaking of those traditions, I mean, you know, how can sort of keep a country like, I mean, for example, if you want to invite tourists, if you want to sell Britain's image, if you want to keep these things going, you know, we'll have to keep up with the tradition.
Well, I think we will, and also our history is such a major point. People come to I mean, if you come from America, you've got quite a short history relatively to Britain, and so it's a big point for us.
The great-great-great-great-grandson, Lord Wellington, of Duke of Wellington, was actually sitting yesterday listening to the King of Spain, and the Speaker of the House of Lords, Lord Fowler, pointed that. I think it's a good point to take a break here now, let people digest history. والآن نذهب إلى استراحة قصيرة نعود بعدها إليكم.
Is that all right?
Yes, good. Welcome back, David. Yeah, on Wednesday in Parliament, Emily Thornberry was totally different, went back to the old style.
That's right, and she actually scored a great hit. She showed the government were all over the place on Brexit, and that they were contradicting each other, they didn't know, and it was quite interesting compared with Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is much more flat-footed in Parliament. It's very straight. He doesn't want to score debating points.
And he doesn't smile.
And he doesn't smile. He's much better at home. He's a grade A campaigner, megaphone campaigner, brilliant. In Parliament, he's sort of grade E, actually, as far as challenging the government.
But sort of the pinnacle of the week is that theatrical thing.
Yeah, that's right.
In America, they watch, everywhere in the world, they watch it and they love it and scoring a point. And Thornberry appears to be quite good, actually, on her feet on that one.
Yes, and I think she'll probably be interested to see whether there are further deputisations, given that Theresa May is probably not that interested in coming to Parliament as much as she would have been if she'd had a majority of 100 or something.
That's true. I mean, it's totally different from Thatcher. I mean, Thatcher was really good on her feet, yeah. I mean, who actually, besides Thornberry, because you've been observing for a long time, is actually good at the dispatch box from the Labour front bench?
It's difficult because there were a lot of new ones and they've not really sort of grappled very well yet because he basically, Corbyn had to create a completely new team. I mean, probably the Brexit man, the former Attorney General, is good actually at probing the government on the dispatch box and what's going on.
He's actually my local MP because that's now South Hampstead is yeah. But actually, going back to Corbyn, I mean, it's different style. Corbyn reads a list. He said, such and such from the NHS, this teacher sent me an email, I got a phone call from the train driver, and so on. It's not really a Parliament issue, is it? It's like a backbencher.
It is, I mean, except, I think I remember when he first going to do it the first day, and everyone said, day one as leader, he'll make a mess. And he suddenly came up with these letters. But and it was a good technique to, I mean, because you could tell momentary. That was Cameron good. Was sort of surprised. What am I going to do about it? Because he could hardly attack constituents. I mean, if he used the dispatch box, they'd say, oh, the stupid person, he's a voter.
Would you be careful actually to explain to our viewers how the Prime Minister would actually prepare and anticipate for the debate? Because both of them would probably have to prepare and anticipate what's going on.
Well, the Prime Minister would probably get a very detailed briefing in the morning. What's in the morning papers? What are the issues that have been raised in television that morning on the Today programme? And come in very well briefed to really say, you know, to be able to take on really any question, any topic or issue. Because the Prime Minister doesn't know what the question's going to be, because we have this intriguing tradition there where you just ask, what did she do today, or he did today, and then they throw in a supplementary.
It's a surprise.
A surprise.
The Prime Minister has to be well briefed.
Sometimes I suspect that the whips for the Conservative side say, will you say how brilliant the number of new jobs you've created in your constituency, and it's all been fixed.
The whips are the ones who actually manage
the House.
You actually were telling me about, now we know that they're actually a minority government and they need to rely on the Ulster Democrat, UDP, to prop them up. You're actually working on, as an investigative journalist, on a story that might actually create a problem with them. You were telling me yesterday about the boundaries.
Yes, I mean...
You can explain it to our viewers here.
I mean, at the moment, they've got an arrangement with the with the DUP to have basically support every time there's a budget or a confidence vote. But what has happened in the middle of all this is the previous Conservative government, David Cameron, wants to cut the number of MPs from 650 to 600. And in Northern Ireland, this means down from 18 to 17. And it's decided by an independent body called the Boundary Commission, which no MP
the boundary
can
of each
interfere,
constituency.
and it will decide each constituency. Now, what they've done in Northern Ireland is they've reduced it by one, with one loss in Belfast, and they've reorganised every constituency with the result that the DUP, who provide 10 vital votes, will only have 7. They're going to lose a third of their MPs. So they're furious. They've gone back to the Boundary Commission and said, excuse me, change this. And they've indicated to me, Geoffrey Donaldson was, sorry, this isn't part of the agreement. If it comes up, they'll probably vote no. If they do that, it's not just Northern Ireland. The whole plan for the whole of the United Kingdom is dropped.
Would collapse. Remember, it used to be 635.
That's right, and then went up.
And then went up, now going down again. Well, going up and down is sort of...
And we're going to have, basically, the election, if it falls, 2020 or 2022, if this government can survive, will be fought on constituency boundaries that are a decade or more out of date.
Out of date by then.
Completely, with tiny seats in some places, 25, 30,000, and huge seats elsewhere.
اوت اوف ديت، يعني زمن قديم. بمناسبة الزمن القديم، احنا دلوقتي بنعيش في زمن العجائب وتحولات عجيبة جدا. تحول واحد من جنس الثاني، زواج المثليين، وتأتي آخر الأعاجيب. أول مرة في بريطانيا راجل يحمل ويولد، ولد طفلة جديدة وصفتها الجدة بأنها جميلة وحبوبة. الولد ده اسمه هايدن كروس، اسم الأب اللي ولد الطفلة. في عرف القانون بأمر المحكمة الراجل اسمه هايدن، لكن من 22 سنة اتولد بنت، خلقت ربنا بنت اسمها بيج. في سن ال 14 بيج اترفضت من المدرسة. ليه؟ خشونتها، تقلدها الرجال، بتمسك العيال تضربهم، وقالت هي ده أنا لأ، أنا جوايا روح ونفس ذكر في جسم انتاية، في جسم أنثى. طبعا كسبت قضية الاعتراف بدخولها عالم الرجال، وابتدوا يعالجوها بالهرمونات ويعملوا لها عملية. لكن قبل الدكاترة ما يشيلوا المبايض والرحم قال لك لا كمان لازم اخلف ازاي؟ ولما البنت تكبر يصبح هو الاب والام. David, we just been talking about Haydn Cross, the first man to give birth.
Oh, right.
When is it going to end? You know, all this treatment and hormonal treatment and...
Well, there doesn't seem to be a boundary to it, does there? And it's a difficult one, this, but what with transgender issues as well.
Yeah, we have to be careful, politically correct here.
Yeah.
But I remember Darwin once saying the accumulation of what's acceptable as a normal phenomenon doesn't make it natural.
No, it's an interesting point, actually.
I can't remember if it's Darwin said I have to look it up. But anyway, but it is really we're entering into a brave new world.
Yes, it does seem a completely brave new world, and also it's fitting in with how many basically people who've had various diseases and other things can now live much longer, and the whole way society is run as well. I mean, go back to the DUP. The argument they're still arguing that you can't have gay marriage, although the rest of England, Scotland says yes.
Well, what comes first, the egg or the chicken? Thank you very much, David. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Enrich the program. وده طبعا بنشكر ضيفنا ديفيد هانكي، وده اخر مكان عندنا. بس ما تنسوش تتابعونا على الفيسبوك من لندن، وعلى تويتر @أديل دارويش، ونشوفكم الحلقه الجايه ان شاء الله. الى اللقاء.